Hey, New Life, this is Pastor Gary Lockard over at GLR campus. So today we're finishing up Jonah and just kind of wrapping up this book. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, talk a little bit about what actually happened in Nineveh later on after Jonah left. So one of the things that was impactful to me was Pastor Marcus asked during this last week's sermon about are there people that you don't want to go to heaven? Because when we look at Jonah was literally angry that he had gone there and spoke the word, and the people repented and were saved. And Jonah was so angry. He said in chapter 4, he said, "That is why I was so quick to flee to Tarshish. I knew that you were a gracious God, a God of compassion and slow to anger, abounding in love, a God who relents from sending calamity." And he's like, "Now, Lord, take away my life because I don't even want to be a part of that." And I thought, man, that's amazing that he's so angry, or he has so much frustration built up against Nineveh that he doesn't even want them to be saved. And what a lot of people don't really know is that Nineveh was established by Nimrod. And Nimrod is a person in the Bible early on in Genesis who's considered a great hunter. And Nimrod actually established the Babel. And then when the Tower of Babel was created, that was all through Nimrod and his doing. And Nimrod, his pride took over because he was so mighty, and he was literally taking God's glory for himself. So the Lord destroyed that. Another thing that legend tells us is that Nimrod was married to a woman, and when she was pregnant with their child, Nimrod was killed. When Nimrod was killed, she claimed that Nimrod was immaculately conceived in her womb, and that actually the baby that she was going to have was going to be Nimrod, and therefore establishing her child as the new king, basically saying that it was Nimrod who was in her womb. So now, during this time period also, was when Nimrod also established Nineveh. So not only is this kind of the precursor of Satan trying to steal the immaculate conception away from the coming Christ, but this is a place that God is wanting to save and give a second chance to. So what we know is that the people did turn away, but 100 years later, their faith did not stay. It withered away. And so the Lord speaks to Nahum, and Nahum is a book that's 2 books away from Jonah, and this is about 612 BC. Jonah was about 700 to 715 BC, somewhere around there, probably right at 100 years. So the Lord tells Nahum in Nahum 1 verses 8, he says, "I'm going to bring an overflowing flood and make an utter end of this place." The Lord also says that it will be destroyed while her inhabitants were still inside. They're drunk, and Nineveh will be unprotected because fire will devour the bars of your gates. So all these prophecies came against Nineveh by Nahum in 612. So after this prophecy happened, the Medes and the Babylonians united, and they went and they marched against Nineveh. The Nineveh walls were so thick and so strong that they could not break them. So they were there under siege for 3 months. And during that 3-month period, at the very end of that 3 months, a huge rain started to fall, and the waters rose, and it actually weakened a part of the wall, and the wall collapsed in an area that they could actually go in and seize the city. The king of Nineveh at the time, he knew that it was over, and he knew that there was no escape. So he built a huge funeral pyre, and he built it with literally a room on the inside. When the enemy was coming in, they lit the funeral pyre, and he put all his gold, all his silver, all his family and his eunuchs and everyone associated with him in there, and they burned up before they could be taken over. The whole rest of the city and the whole rest of that region was easily conquered and taken over. And then 200 years after that, an army was marching through that area, and they couldn't even find one relic that could be found. The desert had taken it over. There was not one stone turned on top of another. It was completely gone. And so the Lord's word stood true, that his wrath came back. But I was just reminded about Matthew chapter 4, the parable of the sower. And in that, Jesus tells us, it says, it's the parable of the farmer who went out to sow seed, and some of the seed fell in a rocky place where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow, but when the sun came up and the plants were scorched, they withered, and because they had no root. And so this Nineveh king, they did not have enough root, and they didn't have enough zeal for the Lord to withstand what was going on, the social political pressures that they had and the corruption that they already had. And so I think that's kind of the lesson for today, is like, stay in the Word, ingest the Word daily so that we can stand strong, and that we can withstand the forces that come against us. We can all be saved by God's grace, but we have to strive to plant that word deep in us so that word will grow, and then will bear fruit, and we will be, solid, grown, mature soldiers for Christ. So I hope that word inspires you for today. We thank you so much for listening and taking time out. I hope you all have a blessed summer, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.